Right. Hey guys, sorry, just pushing it to YouTube and turning off my other mic. Hold on. Popping in the chat, guys. Tap the screen, share the live. Tap, tap, tap. Let's tap the screen. Let's get as many people in here as possible. I'm excited for today's show. Yay! Hey, good morning. Can you guys hear Danielle okay? I'm just making sure. I know yesterday we had a little problem with sound. You sound a little quiet to me. Oh, wait, maybe that's because I only have one earphone. That could be it. How's it going? How are you feeling? I know. I'm like, is it RSV? I tried. This is so sad. This is how weird I am. I tried to get an RSV shot and they're like, you're not 60. But I'm like, I think I need it. Oh, hey, everyone's saying they can't hear you. I can barely hear you as well. So I think you gotta turn something up. Yay, Mandy's here. The gang's all here. No, it's really, you sound really far away. Okay, cool. Because, yeah, it just sounds far away. And I'm pretty sure I troubleshooted all my audio yesterday. So I'm sure it's not me this time. You sound really far away too. Hold on. That's
It's
you
just
can
weird.
hear. Oh, there we go.
Heard
I
just
can hear.
fine.
No, now you sound fine. So maybe when she rejoins. Yeah, can you talk now, Mandy?
Yeah, sure. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you louder now. Like I hear you louder. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's like there's something weird going on.
Okay.
I had to restart a live with Fax yesterday. Like there was some weird buzzing sound. And then yesterday when I started the live, I couldn't hear Pickles. I think it might be a glitch in TikTok Studio, but now I hear you fine. I don't so Danielle, if you can
Oh,
hear
good.
us, it probably wasn't you, like because I couldn't hear Mandy either. And then all of a sudden now I can hear her. So
And please don't think I'm rude. I just got home, so I'm having a little bit of like leftover mashed potatoes from Thanksgiving.
oh no. God, I have been eating, don't even get me. That's what we're all supposed to be doing is
Right.
binging on leftover food. Hold on, I have to get my water bottle 1 second. I can't reach it with these headphones on. How was the hiking?
Good. I went out, so I flew into San Francisco and then I drove up a lot of the coast. So I got to see I've seen Northern California before, but I drove up there
Gorgeous.
and a little bit of Southern Oregon, and then came around inland to see some mountains. And it was just seeing like everything you can see in a week, I guess.
I think
It
that's one
was,
of the least appreciated parts of California, like the northern coast.
yeah.
Just
Oh,
south,
it's
like
so
north of San
beautiful.
Francisco, south of Oregon is like where
Yeah.
Humboldt State is and stuff. Oh my God,
Yep.
so
Oh,
gorgeous.
so beautiful. We seem to be like following, I kept like getting into the rain. So like at one point I just stayed. So when I came inland, I wanted to see Mount Shasta because I had never seen it, which is of course a ton of snow in that area, which I'm like, I go from Wisconsin to California and I find snow. Of course I do. Um, but because I kept getting behind like this storm, every time I drove into a new place, it was too stormy to do anything. So I stayed there at night. And then that gave me like a couple days of like getting away from the storm. So I got to enjoy a little more sunshine and hiking and stuff. So
I love to hike too. I love to hike, walk, anything. It's so good for mental health. I absolutely
yeah,
love it. We're just
yeah.
waiting for Dani. I'm sure Dani will be here any second. I think she thought there was a problem with her sound, but I don't think it's a problem. Guys, tap the screen. Everyone tap the screen. Share the live with 5 people, please. Let's get more people in here. We have a great show today. Okay, yeah, I can already hear you. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden, the sound just turned on.
Pop back on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
just
weird.
Technology.
Yeah, it's TikTok Studio does weird things all the time. Okay, let me turn on. Yeah. So, guys, I just want to say everything we're going to go over today, it is in an outline in the Discord. If you need a link to the Discord, you can just say in the chat, I need a link to the Discord. Hopefully, a mod will get you one. Or this is a TikTok live account at Felice Navidad Live. It's just a TikTok business account. If you just message this account and say, I need a link to the Discord, I will get you one. If you are in the Discord, everything, all these clips, articles are available in the live sources section for you to reference, use, whatever. Um, I wanted to start out, you guys. I just wanted to tell you some. I mean, I don't know if it's good news. You guys know if it's good news or I'm just at the point where I'm like anything is good news and we need to just cling to things that, just kind of show that possibly the Supreme Court still has some sort of heart or ethical
Hmm.
soul. So the new Supreme Court oral arguments are starting. The new Supreme Court session is starting. And I was talking about this a little bit yesterday morning on my live with Facts. Um, this case, I said, this is going to set the precedent. Like, all we hear from Republicans is they care about women, they care about children, and they were hearing this Triton vape case, right? Which is basically the argument is, hey, we want to sell flavored like vape pods or flavored vape liquid, even though all studies show that Juul company, got many children disproportionately addicted to vaping liquid, and we think that this is BS and we should be allowed to market and get kids addicted to vaping liquid. Because really, what we're trying to do is get adults to stop, smoking. Like that's
Hmm.
kind of their argument. And this already was a case. The scientific data backs it that this is very harmful to children. We had almost eradicated tobacco use in America's youth. And then there was a huge resurgence. And how that happened, I always say there's a great documentary about this. It's on, I think it was on Netflix. It's about the making of the Juul company, which and how they got around the FDA. It was devised, the technology of vaping was devised at Stanford, and they registered, and became a tech company that was outside the FDA's jurisdiction. And they said, oh, well, this is safer than smoking. We're actually trying to get people to stop smoking. This is a health company, a technology company. And then they started marketing to children, and we got a whole generation of children terrifyingly addicted to like things like this company the oral arguments yesterday. I was listening to them, and this company's like, the solicitor general's like, or assist deputy solicitor general. It wasn't Preligar, but it was, I can't remember his name, but he was like, what do you think Mother's cookies and milk? Do you think that that would appeal to children if you're selling a flavor called Mother's cookies and milk? I mean,
Right.
and I don't know what I mean, Trump sold off his policy platform basically to the highest bidders. And one of them was the vaping industry. They lobbied him to the tunes of millions upon millions of dollars. And Trump claimed, I will save the vaping industry. And so, and I was like, this, we're going to know. And if this is a judge shopping case, and Daniel, we always talk about the Fifth Circuit, right? They went to Texas,
I love that.
went to some desolate place in Texas, found a local judge that would put and be like, it's fine. The kids, it's fine. Mother's cookies and milk, that's fine. And then, the Fifth Circuit, the federal circuit of appeals that oversees Texas, those are these far right radical judges who are basically auditioning to replace Clarence Thomas and Alito. I mean, they're wackos. If you would read the decisions on how they justify, like, hey, these vaping companies should be allowed to market to kids, it's unbelievable. Like the hoops they jump through. So I was like, we're going to know tomorrow if the Supreme Court has a soul. Like, will they protect the kids? And I mean, it's going to be narrow, but it looks like the Supreme Court may have a line, and it might be kids being addicted to tobacco.
That's their line. At least they have
At
one.
least they have one.
I,
Yeah.
can you imagine if they
I
did? I don't know if they do, but it seems like they might.
wherever their line is, it's a bar that is so low the devil is tripping over it in hell.
The bar is
Right.
in hell. It's deep,
Like,
deep in hell.
And I still won't believe it until they
Yeah,
do.
we
Like
won't
at this
know till
point,
this summer, but there was
yeah,
some art, and Clarence Thomas was like just all for it, you know. Like,
of
God
course
help
he was.
Clarence. There's a special place for that man. Like, it's unbelievable. Like the hoops they have to jump through to be like, but you know, they're trying to say that the FDA is, you know, moving the bar, basically, like picking up the goalposts and moving them. And there's no way to get FDA approval for anything nowadays. And FDA is like, no, the science is clear. Like, this is disproportionately appealing and marketing to children. We don't want the children of America to be addicted to this stuff. And the Supreme Court did seem to kind of favor it. So I think we should just start there with a little bit of hope. At least
Right.
apparently. But I mean, imagine the Fifth Circuit. These people are, these judges like Judge Ho, all these people that want to be on the Supreme Court are just, I mean, bless their hearts. And now on to something a little bit more disturbed. I
No,
don't
and
know
I
else
mean,
what
and
to say about them.
I'm all for it. As a mom of a son who is 20 now, trying to quit vaping, like he's been doing it since he was a sophomore in high school, and I've been after him trying to get him to stop since I found out he was doing it. Like, and to people who are be like, "How did you?" I figured it out pretty early on, but convincing a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid to listen, nearly impossible. Also, he has ADHD, so there were some therapeutic effects of that, like admittedly for him, but it didn't outweigh obviously the damage it can do. And we had just gone through lung cancer with my mom, who smoked most of my life. And so for me, it was just like, why are you doing this? Luckily now, as a 20-year-old, he's trying to quit, but it's not easy. And so, and he was easily pulled in by all the different flavors because it makes it seem so benign. Like you just think, oh, it's flavored, it's candy, it's fine. But it's not. Obviously, it was marketed to be the alternative, help people quit, and it just resulted in getting a bunch of new kids hooked.
I know
And
your son's 20. He's probably right in that class, that age group of kids that
mm-hmm.
the wave of Juul. You should show him that
Yeah,
documentary because it's kind of
I will.
fascinating. Because
Yeah.
I mean, it really shows you, like, man, they went after you guys. And it's disgusting. Now
Mm-hmm.
on to more very disturbing things. I played this yesterday for people on my show, The People's Receipts, but I have to play it for you guys. I have to show you, I mean, prepare yourselves for what Fox News is saying about women. I mean, this is real, and they're talking about us. So prepare.
Women that are. What do you make of this 4B movement? The women that are shaving their heads, the women that are, quote, withholding sex, the women that are threatening to divorce their husbands and stockpiling abortion pills. What's your comment on that? Because that's like my favorite topic now.
It's your favorite topic? Okay, you're scaring me now, Sean.
It's my favorite topic because they're nuts.
They are. They're psychotic, frankly. But they're not real women in that way, in my mind, I guess. They're not desirable women. I guess I'm going to try to speak for most red-blooded American men like yourself. At the end of the day,
Why are Republican men always trying to sleep with me? It's so weird.
I don't understand. If we're so just abhorrent, why care? Why care?
It's the
If we
weirdest
don't,
thing.
I don't understand.
Oh, it gets
And
worse.
the
And
women,
imagine a black woman. They're talking about hoarding AB pills. A black woman who's
yeah.
3 times more likely. This is a woman who probably has a 6-figure salary. Regardless of how much money she makes, is still 3 times more likely to die in childbirth and is carrying water for the Conservative Party. I mean, that's what I find. It gets worse.
Speak for most red-blooded American men like yourself. At the end of the day, I do think, and I'm not trying to be mean or insensitive, but I do think that Trump derangement syndrome has just gone off the cliff here. And there is something wrong upstairs in my mind for so many of these women who are reacting that way. And the scary thing is that I think a lot of them are smart, educated women who are choosing to believe these things. And that's why the Democrats have pushed it for so long, though, because it has proven to work. This is the first time, though, to the shock and dismay of the left, that it hasn't worked. And I look at some of the demographics from this past election, which is 3 weeks ago yesterday, hard to believe. I mean, 18 to 24-year-old women. I mean, didn't Trump win that demographic? So really, people have begun, sane women have begun to do their homework and not just go for the low-hanging fruit that the left throws out there.
What do you make of this?
I mean, do you guys hear an echo?
I don't.
I don't either. I'm not sure. Maybe go in and come out. I'm not sure. I hear an echo, and I don't know why there would be one. Only on the clip. Interesting. I have no idea how that could be. Media sources.
I don't hear it on the clips either.
They said it's on the clips. I don't hear it on the clips either, but
I don't either. Here, let me just look. Make sure. Yeah. Noise suppression. Reduce background noise. Yeah, I don't know. It's reverb on the clip. Yeah, I mean, I turned the volume on the clips down a little to see if that would help an echo, but I have no idea whether it would be one. Here, let me just try. Let me try.
4B movement. The women that are shaving their heads, the women that are...
Yeah, I'm testing the audio and I don't hear an echo. I'm not sure. But anyways, you guys heard this and I played it yesterday. What do you think?
Mandy, do you want to go first or do you want me to?
I mean, pick a lane. Like, which is it? Like, first of all, I will not understand. I will never understand this. Like, you don't want to sleep with us. Now we're going to try to shame you for that. Like, okay. Like, I don't understand. Just that more for you, man. Like, more for you. Like, I don't really understand. But also Trump derangement syndrome, because women don't want to date conservative men or men who vote for Trump or men in general right now, considering the state of our, healthcare access, etc. It's bizarre to me, but seeing women especially do the heavy lifting for, the patriarchy, that misogyny is always really hard for me to watch because I'm a woman's woman, always will be, but the way I wanted to climb through my phone and have words for that, because also I love knowing that I'm intelligent but ugly. That's cool.
Honestly, I would rather be that.
Exactly.
Like you can fix anything, y'all. You can fix anything, but you can't fix stupid. So
right?
I'm good. I'm good with that. So the two things that jump out at me at this clip, because Mandy, you were saying, you're like, okay, you guys don't want to sleep with us. We're disgusting. And also, yes, you do. They all do, right?
Absolutely.
Obviously you do. And you can tell because in the beginning of the clip, he's like, these women that are withholding sex. You can't withhold sex. You can't withhold something that somebody else is not entitled to. You are never entitled to the use of somebody else's body. So therefore, I cannot withhold that. No one is withholding. So it's this narrative that American men have right now that these women are withholding sex from us. The other side of that coin is we are entitled to this sex. So they do want to have sex with us. They just don't want us to have a choice. Right. They don't have any problem with women having sex. They have problems with women having a choice of who they have sex with. Right? So y'all want us. We don't want you. And it's that whole thing again where it's men who are tired and sick of women, this whole misandry thing. Women who don't want men just want men to leave us the hell alone.
Yes. Exactly.
Men who say that they are mad at women, y'all just keep coming after us and telling us that we're withholding something from you. Whatever. And then the other thing is this idea of red-blooded American men. And she's like, well, these aren't real women. That's a no true Scotsman fallacy. And we hear that all the time. These aren't real. Well, a real man wouldn't do that. But he is. But he is a man. Yep. Well, real women wouldn't do this. But they are in large numbers all across the country. So it's so stupid. But notice how Republicans they just don't critically think about this stuff. They'll just grab onto these little blips of well, no, those aren't real women. But they are. They are though. So you sound stupid, right? And we hear this all the time too, where Christians will be like, well, no real Christian would act that way. But they are. But they are Christians.
Yeah.
And so are you. So like all you're trying to do, and that's what this woman is doing too, right? She's like a pawn for the patriarchy. She's trying to separate herself from these other women. And she's trying to do an us versus them thing where she's like, well, I'm a real woman. So no real woman would do. You are. You're a woman too. You're one of us. Just
well, and also as a black woman, you know, as someone whose father's black, like they don't want you. I don't know what you are thinking about while you're saying this stuff. You're never going to be picked. You're not going to be one of them. You will never be in the club. Like, as someone who's so white passing that I have had the pleasure of being in groups of white people while they say what they really think about black women, about black people, about brown people, about minorities. You are never going to be picked. No matter how many times you sit here on Fox News and peddle this absolute BS, you're never going to be picked. And you're also first in line to be unalived in maternal mortality. Surprise! You won't even be around for too long. Like, that's the best part. You're first in line to go. And the other thing I wanted to point out, because you guys pointed out great things, but this is getting me lately, and I think Dani knows this, is the whole, oh, they're crazy. They're unstable. They're unstable. The oldest trick in the patriarchal manual, they don't agree with men. She's saying she was raped. She's saying she was essayed. She's unstable. That's what it is. She's unstable. And to listen to a black woman carry water for men, and in this administration, which I'm going somewhere with this, like I'm taking us on a journey of what how Trump is an adjudicated rapist himself, who is now surrounding himself or attempting to surround himself and his cabinet with just other men who have horrifically assaulted women and children, allegedly, but have been credibly accused of assault. And all I hear on Fox News, on CNN, in the halls of Capitol Hill and Congress is Republican men and women like her saying, they're crazy. They're unstable. Oh, women are saying that they've been SA'd. They're unstable. And this is the best part. And this is where I'm going with this. We are not talking about us, the ones showing too much skin with too much makeup, who are too educated, who went to too much school, and who are asking for it, because we're asking for it, right? Guys, we're liberals. We're asking to be raped. But these are the women who are being raped by these men are Republican women. The good ones, the good Christian married women. The good Christian married women are being abused by Republican men, and then they're saying they're crazy, they're unstable, it didn't happen. And so I wanted to show you guys this, if you guys haven't heard it. So it came out, the New York Times got access to an email that Pete Hegseth, who Trump wants to run our entire military, run the Defense Department, who has no qualifications to do that, by the way. I mean, if that matters to anyone, he has zero qualifications to actually do that job. But on top of that is a misogynist who despises women, doesn't believe they should be in contact, and apparently has gone around essaying them as evidence has come out. And I just want to play for you. This is a literal email read out loud that his mother sent him after he was accused of raping a woman in 2017, and immediately during that time cheated on, I believe, his second or third wife. Sorry, I can't keep him straight. Either his second or third wife, and impregnated his Fox and Friends producer while he was married. So that's what's going. And this is his mother writing an email to him.
LP Hegseth sent to her son, Pete Hegseth, on April 30th, 2018. One sentence was redacted by the New York Times for privacy reasons. Son, I have tried to keep quiet about your character and behavior, but after listening to the way you made Samantha feel today, I cannot stay silent. And as a woman and your mother, I feel I must speak out. You are an abuser of women. That is the ugly truth. And I have no respect for any man that belittles, lies, cheats, sleeps around, and uses women for his own power and ego. You are that man, and have been for years. And as your mother, it pains me and embarrasses me to say that, but it is the sad, sad truth. I'm not a saint, far from it, so don't throw that in my face. But your abuse over the years to women, dishonesty, sleeping around, betrayal, debasing, belittling, needs to be called out. Sam is a good mother and a good person, under the circumstances that you created. And I know deep down you know that. For you to try to label her as unstable for your own advantage is despicable and abusive. Is there any sense of decency left in you? She did not ask for or deserve any of what has come to her by your hand. Neither did Meredith. I know you think this is one big competition, and that we have taken her side. Bunk, we are on the side of good, and that is not you. Go ahead and call me self-righteous. I don't care.
We are on the side of good, and that is not you. This is a mother talking to her child. And do you notice how she's saying, like, and don't start gaslighting me. I already know. Like, she's speaking to a narcissist. Like,
Yeah.
I already know what you're going to do. Don't try it.
And
Yeah,
I think
she
it's
knows.
really interesting. She says in there about like how he's already trying to paint his ex-wife as crazy, right?
Do you see where
All
I'm
this
going?
is,
And this is
Yeah.
a Republican women. This is a married, this is a woman who did everything right now. Let's get it right. This is a woman who did every single thing right. She became a Republican. She's a Christian. She got married, right? She did all the right things, but she's nuts.
Yeah.
Yep, it's the hysterical woman trope all over again. It's just the replaying. And I want, as we listen to the last of this, I just want everyone to pay attention because this drives me insane. They always use this, oh, she's crazy. Like, notice how in the clip that you just played, Felice, it was like the woman was saying these women are psychotic as a way to devalue them, decenter them, and say, like, we don't have to listen to anything they say because they're psychotic. The exact same Republican Party, the exact same news channel will call men mentally ill, psychotic, or crazy as a way to excuse their mass unaliving. When they do mass pew-pews with people, right? And we see large numbers of deaths, 6 people dead, 7 people dead, 10 people dead, right? That same trope of crazy is used to say he's not responsible. He can't be responsible for this because he has a mental illness. This is a mental health. And the same exact she's crazy is why you should devalue these women, why these women deserve what's coming to them. But we should give all of the sympathy to these poor boys because they're crazy. Lose me with that.
Didn't mean to be coughing over you, Dani. Sorry.
You're fine.
Absolutely.
No, and to piggyback off of that, because it reminded me, I know I've talked about this on my page a number of times. The same goes for now my thought just went away. So the way that they use that with he's not a real man. They use he's not a real man as another, exactly to that point, as an excuse. Because I get that all the time in my comments when we call out these men. Well, he's not a real man. Yes, he is. He is a grown-ass adult man. That is a man. Whether you see him as one or not is entirely different. But you don't get to make him some subcategory of men and tell us that we just need to trust all men. They're just the bad one, because we don't know who the bad one is. And yet when any woman does anything, suddenly she becomes the example of all women. Yep, see, she's crazy. All women are crazy. No, it doesn't work that way. You don't get to do that, but it's always applied opposite to women, right? Women are the example, men are the exclusion. Like they're not. That's just that guy. But see, all women are crazy because one woman treated you poorly, or one woman, dipped out, whatever. Like, oh, all women are crazy, so therefore we can just speak to women so dismissively, and they're crazy and they're emotional, because as we all know, anger is not apparently an emotion when it's applied to men. So,
and think about what women are labeled as crazy for. We're crazy because why? Because we're educated, because we can effectively follow a line of logic, because
we have the audacity to reject you.
Yeah, because we have the audacity to not want to sleep with you, because we make you feel insecure, which is the real part, right? You feel insecure, so I must be unstable, right? And think about it. Men who, I do lives on Monday mornings with Facts, and we're in the live, and two women Literally, 2 women in the comments were like, "Stop interrupting him. Be quiet," to me. And I was like, if I interrupted every man who spoke to me for the rest of my life, I would never interrupt men more than I've been interrupted, more than I've been silenced in conference rooms in the tech industry ever. And by women. So that's my point. Please understand the patriarchy is internalized in women as well. They have been indoctrinated to only value men, to say, let the man speak. You be quiet. No, more women need to interrupt. We need
Yeah,
to interrupt.
I
I
had an
will be
experience with that
interrupting
with a
forever. Sorry, not you,
yeah.
Mandy.
No. You can interrupt me. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just agreeing because I don't know if you guys remember the whole Robbie Harvey stuff that went down about a year and a half ago when we were calling Robbie Harvey to task. And I did a video calling out his video where he was like, women basically, he was victim blaming, and I called it out, and I schooled him very well, got blocked immediately. But the amount of women who came out for him, right? Because he does trauma corn, like that's what he does. He takes advantage of women's trauma and like makes a platform pretending to be safe when we know he's not.
Well,
And
absolutely. He's a narcissist.
the women that came out and came after me, and I remember because I was so caught off guard by how many women were threatening to cancel me because they couldn't believe I would speak out against him. And I made a video, and it's a longer one. It's one of the ones I'm most proud of because I just found all the right words at that point, which sometimes doesn't happen. And I ended it with the one thing I would never do and will never do is tell a woman to sit down and be quiet because a man is speaking, ever. So don't do that to me. Don't ask me to be silent so some man can be a proxy to you when I'm here to defend you and to fight for you without motive. Like I'm not trying to get something out of you. He doesn't care. And that's what we see too often is these women who have such deep internalized misogyny and are still doing so much of that heavy lifting for the patriarchy are the ones who they need desperately for a man to validate them in any way they can. And so when they see a man who they think is safe, they will choose that man over women who are safe almost every time because they haven't been able to unpack any of that.
And imagine, like, I will never name names. Like, I've learned that I come from the tech industry where I already know pointing out that a man has abused me, that, somebody I worked with is a predator or is taking advantage of women. I will be punished for that. Right. Like I've watched it happen. You say the truth, what we all know is happening, that the tech industry is 90% male and 10% female and a bunch of women are being assaulted. You will never work again. Ever. You will never have a job. And that proliferates here. And like, I want to say this, and I think you guys, in our group chat, which I think maybe we should like start publishing our group chats. But or maybe not, but it's like that's the thing. It's all men, right? It's not just, and believe me, I have a special place, and that's why I'm showing these clips and we're having this conversation for conservative men who continue to call women unstable, but it's leftist men too. It's leftist creators on this app that I've worked with that call women unstable, right? That lie about women, that use the same tactics that the patriarchy uses to invalidate women, that undervalue their labor. This is going on all the time, right? And it's conscious and it's subconscious. That is the reality.
Oh, for sure.
So
you can tell that they. Go ahead.
No, that's it. I was just mumbling.
We were talking like this week about how the mask will come off, right? Like, and it's not to say that we don't think that there are any men, and we talked about this on our show like last week or a couple weeks ago. It's not that we don't think any men are allies, but we also want you to be traitors, right? Be allies to women, but be traitors to the patriarchy. And if you're being an ally to women, but the second a woman calls you out, calls you in, or puts you to task, and you then rely back on all of those old patriarchal tropes so you can get power again and put her beneath you, your mask has come off. You are not an ally, and you're definitely not being a traitor to the patriarchy. If you then lean back on all the patriarchal tools and start pulling them out of your toolbox when accountability is called to for you, you were never an ally to begin with. You were just benefiting off of the mask of being an ally.
Yep. Did I share with you guys in the group chat the Facebook interaction I had with a guy who claimed to be an ally, but he like lost his mind on me on Facebook?
No,
So
tell us.
I don't remember.
I posted about that Wisconsin Supreme Court hearing where they were talking about our 1849 abortion ban. And I had posted it all over because obviously it went super viral. And then I didn't get paid because TikTok sucks. But it went super viral. I posted it everywhere. And this guy got in my comments and really aggressively was like, it doesn't even matter because there'll be a national ban. So why even post this? Why even have hope? And I'm like, because for right now in Wisconsin, it very much matters. And until we have a national ban, this very much matters. Plus, Wisconsin has an incredibly, and you guys are going to hear about this probably every week, an incredibly important election coming up in April for a Supreme Court justice that will determine whether we stay, progressive or conservative, and will affect women in our state and trans very, very heavily. So, I posted that and he got really mad. I said, don't come at me with your negativity. I am allowed to find hope wherever I can. This is strong women showing us how they should be speaking on this topic, showing what should be happening on this topic, not afraid to say abortion, not afraid to talk about people losing their lives, not afraid to call out the barbaricness of these, the barbarism of these laws. And if I would have posted that, I can. And this dude took all of no time before I was being called, I can't even say it. I was being called all sorts of names, aggressive names. I never called him a name. I said, don't mansplain to me this policy stuff, to which he lost his shit. The fact that I even suggested he was mansplaining, and when I say lost it, I have to send you guys screenshots this. I wasn't even responding. Dude just kept posting. Dude just went crazy. And I sent it to a few people. I'm like, y'all are mutuals with this dude. What's his deal? And they're all like, oh yeah, no, he's a wolf in sheep's clothing. He pretends to be an ally. And I was like, oh, everyone needs to block this person because
You'd be surprised
he's not
how many of those there are on the left.
It took the word mansplaining,
Absolutely
and he was
shocked
off to the
if we started
races.
listing them out loud.
I was like, good Lord, man. Also,
No,
he didn't know what
imagine,
mansplaining
I can't tell you how many men I hear that are leftist creators on this app that women follow blindly and defend with their absolute lives. Oh, he's a good guy. He's an ally. He defends us. Oh, really? Does he? Really? Is that true? If you don't know any of these people. That's the
Right.
reality. You don't know who any of these people are. He defends you publicly because you're giving him money. That is the reality. Please, I've had it. And that's the truth. And again, let's continue hating on conservative men, but it is the point. The patriarchy runs deep. It's internalized in all of us. It's the same way I talk about dismantling racism. That's an action, right? It's a verb. It's instilled in us. It is intrinsic inside us because it's systemic in Western civilization. And we have to actively, every day, dismantle racism within us, and teach ourselves and continue reminding ourselves, or we fall back into it because it's so innate in our culture. And it's the same thing with misogyny, right? Just like you said, Dani, when it's beneficial for men to publicly be allies because it makes them money or it gets them great feedback from women and all these followers who he cares about us. But then when someone calls him to the carpet, says, hey, you're doing something that's very misogynistic. You're hurting me. You're no longer being an ally to women. And then comes oh, she's unstable. She's unstable.
Yep.
She's crazy.
Yep.
And it's what's worse? Just Republicans who don't lie about it and are let's marginalize women. Let's not let them vote. Or the wolves in sheep's clothing. I don't know.
Ooh.
Okay, so let's finish this letter from Pete Hegseth's mom because she's awesome. The end is awesome.
I love his mom, by the way.
I know. Can we meet his mom?
Hero.
Well, she did publicly take it back, though. She's like, oh, I apologized to him for that. Yeah, she did.
I didn't know that.
Yes,
No.
she did. Yeah, she said she apologized to him. I mean, he's because publicly he's trying to get somewhere and she's like, oh, I apologize to him. She didn't want this to come out. And I'll get to more. More has come out about this man. The biggest expose came out yesterday about him in the New Yorker. The New Yorker does long exposés on people. Pete Hegseth has a long history of essaying women, of fostering cultures of essay, the woman that he alleged, credibly, I'm not saying allegedly anymore, credibly accused him of rape, right? That's not the only woman he paid off and forced to sign an NDA. Like, that's
Her
definitely not the only one.
backpedaling makes me so mad.
I know.
Yeah.
Because I
Stand
think of
on
like
it.
that story I told you guys where I told my son, next time you want to say something sexist, just come home and slap me. Like, I
That's such a
stand
good
on that.
line. I love
I
that.
stand on that. If he ever is in any position where they're like pulling this out and I have to, and that would come out, I'd be like, yeah, I said it, but guess what? He's now a man who treats women with respect. Like, he had his girlfriend here for Thanksgiving. She's so sweet, by the way. But like, everything, like, I would make jokes about, be like, you do that, don't make her do that. He's like, I know, Mom. And like, I pulled her aside one time when I met her. I was like, if he's ever treating you in a way that's not respectful, you need to tell me, because I will take care of it. Like, I've got your back. And no way. Oh, that makes me mad. I'm sorry. I know we gotta
Oh,
finish
I
the clip,
know. I
but I
believe
just,
me. I know. I'm like, wait, I wasn't going to play this, but real quick, I'm going to show you guys something else that I think will be relevant to this conversation. Because this woman, she's on TikTok. Her name's like Jerica underscore speak or underscore speaks. I'd never heard of her, but I think I actually heard her sing this and I thought it was relevant. I wasn't going to play it because I'm like, I don't even know if I should play things like this, but I'm just going to play it because I think this is a white woman talking about like her place in both white supremacy and misogyny, right?
It's 100% true. And I'm going to tell you, as a millennial white woman who has completely walked away from everything that she has known in her white supremacy based fucking piss ass families, it's true. It's true. White women are the fucking problem. They embolden the problem. They marry the problem. They birth the problem. They're lazy as fuck and they play victim about the goddamn problems that they're participating in. I don't know one happy white woman in one of my families. I only know white women that are either alone because men fucked them over and ruined their goddamn livelihoods and drove them insane, or they settled because they wanted their fucking retirements and they decided, hey, I might as well let this fucking pissant live next to me. White women and families that have watched their fucking husbands treat them like shit, beat on them, cheat on them, everything, but they still staying with them, laid down like a doormat. They'll be sitting at all these family picnics talking shit about these men, talking about how much they fucking hate them, how they're losers, how they get shit stains in their pants, but they stayed married to them and they still fucking voted to embolden them. White women will sell out their daughters, sell out their children. They will quite literally do anything as long as they get picked. As long as they're not the ones getting beat on. Because what do we know about toxic-ass white families? Pathetic, shitty, white supremacy-based fucking toxic-ass white families? Let me tell you about those families. When they're not going after gay people, when they're not going after black people, when they're not going after marginalized groups and poor people, they're beating the fucking shit out of white girls in the family. Especially if you're a free thinker. God forbid you're pretty, okay? Or got a brain. Oh my God, you're getting your ass fucking beat down. And so what happens to those white women? They either find their way in the family so that they can at least be accepted and have love and support, whatever the fuck that looks like, or they leave, like me, and they get demonized and chastised for it. This is white supremacy. Everything these fucking people are saying is true.
Oh, she's mainly talking about white supremacy and racism, right? Which, I mean, I come from a family like that, like, because I didn't agree with a lot of conservative values, right? Because I refused to be quiet and just shut up and go with it. Yeah, I got beat up a lot. Like, that was my childhood. It's like, just give in. No, like, that I would get beat up. So I understand a lot of what she's saying, but the part I want to note is like, how it relates to misogyny is white women basically agreed to prop up the patriarchy, right? Like, that is the agreement. Hey, I'm going to help you. I'm going to birth your children. I'm going to allow you to continue this supremacy through misogyny. And in exchange, you protect me, right? You protect me and prop me up in society as well.
That's why, so Mona at the Hallway is a really amazing feminist scholar and writer. And she always says that white women are the foot soldiers of the patriarchy.
Amen.
And that's how you know the patriarchy is working well. This is all by design, right? Women have to keep other women in line. And if they do, the patriarchy, the men can be busy doing other things. That's why, Mandy, you'd said something earlier, and I can't remember what it was, but it pinged it in my brain, discussing about, when we were talking about how women started coming for you and stuff, it's so ingrained in women in our society that other women are your competition. Other women are your enemy. Other women are who you're like, they're going to try to keep you down, put you down, steal your man, steal your job, take all the good things from you. And it keeps women pitted against each other. It keeps women from storytelling and sharing their stories about how men have hurt them. It keeps women in competition with one another. But the other thing it does is patriarchy works best when they don't have to do the dirty work. And if they can indoctrinate other women to put other women down and keep other women in line, shame other women, then they can be busy doing the other shit. They can be busy putting their best men in government. They can be busy taking away women's right to vote. They can be busy taking away bodily autonomy rights, right? Because other women are keeping the women in line. They don't have to worry about that leg of the patriarchy. Women are going to do that job for them.
Yeah. I think we've talked about that, Dani. Like the biggest thing that the patriarchy ever, or the best thing the patriarchy ever did was convince women that we're each other's competition and not men. As long as we're looking at each other, we're not looking at what the men are doing.
Amen. And like one of the things I'm most ashamed of is my role in the tech industry. Like in order to advance in the tech industry, you have to sit in conference rooms where horrible things are being said, right? You have to have this idea of, oh yeah, why does she get to take 3 months off or a month off, or do you know what I mean? Because she's pregnant, like she is hanging us out to dry. Do you know what I mean? And you have to sit there and I mean, you're complicit in your silence. And if you speak up, they call it, literally, they have a name for it in the tech industry. It's called a CLM, a career limiting move. Sorry for interrupting.
No.
Oh, and people are asking what her at was. It's Jerica, the woman who was just talking in that clip. It's Jerica, JERICA _speaks. That's her name. If anyone wants, yes. Thank you, Kimber. Amazing. It's Jerica _speaks. And again, join the Discord. Any of these clips are in the Discord. Actually, that one's not. That was just, I didn't put that in the outlook because I was like, is this too much? This is a little insane.
I think it's also interesting. Someone said, and I think, Mandy, you sort of like touched on this a little bit in maybe the message that you got, or maybe we discussed it we might have discussed it in our group chat as well. It all kind of gets blurry, but someone in the comments said, and it was someone being misogynist, right? So like we can disregard it, but it's a teaching moment. Someone in the comments said, wow, she's so angry. She's just so angry. That's another way that they discount women's experiences. Own your rage. Men do all the time, and it's violent and it hurts you. Women's rage doesn't hurt anybody. Women's rage calls for accountability and change and moving forward. Men's rage is what damages society. But women have been devalued so much by being like, oh, you're such an angry woman. You're so angry. And it's a way for them to silence you. It's a way for them to be like, oh, you're so angry. And then you have to be like, oh, well, let me try to craft my message in such a nice way so that way it lands nice. It's not going to land nicely on them. They don't care. They don't want to hear it. If someone is tone policing you like that, they don't give a shit about your message. They give a shit about controlling you more than they do about caring about what your message is. But that's another way. We'll hear, oh, she's so crazy. And then we're here, oh, she's angry. She's just so angry. We're fucking angry. Right. You took away our rights and you're trying to take away more. Be angry. If you've ever needed to be angry at any point in history, it is now. So like own that feminine rage. Mona at the Hallway, again, amazing feminist author that writes about it. She's on Instagram. I don't think she's on TikTok, but she writes about this feminine rage a whole lot. That's what changes things in society. Not us sitting back quietly and going, oh, you think I'm angry? Okay, I should be nicer. No, niceness has gotten us nowhere.
Oh my God, I cannot agree more. And Joanna said very rightly, this is how they silence Black women. And this is why.
Absolutely.
Like, if you wonder why I'm so aggressive, like, which is what I was accused of on Faxes Live yesterday morning, be quiet. Don't interrupt. Don't speak so loudly. Don't talk over men by two women. How would you think I became aggressive? Why would you think I'm like this? Imagine where I grew up to have become so aggressive to survive. And that is the experience. And again, I'm not trying, like, I am too light skinned. I have too much white privilege to even claim my blackness. So I don't like to say it, even though my dad's black. I just like to say that is the experience of women who are darker skinned than me and who are browner and blacker than me. They have fought to survive. You wonder why black women are speaking and speaking to be heard? Because if not, they're going to be unalived, right? Like, they are on the very edge of effing survival. And that's why I think like it can be frustrating for black women. I remember when the Dobbs decision came out, and is like all these videos on TikTok of white women being like, black women, you guys are the community organizers. Show us the way. And it's like, you didn't give an F about black women's opinions before your rights were taken away. Black women have been screaming this entire time for somebody to listen, and now white women are like, oh, we need your help, black women. It's like, where were you when black women have been trying this entire time? So I fully understand like the frustration of black women, right? Like, I fully grasp it, and like, as one myself, but I mean, I just call myself multiracial because, again, I have so much white privilege in society. I don't know that it's right to recognize myself that way, right? I'm also indigenous Mexican, but like, I just have to say, like, I feel it every day. And yeah, we should be angry. It's okay to be angry. And men are celebrated for their anger. Think about UFC fights. Think about boxing. Men, the more aggressive, the more crazy men get in a bar fight. Oh, he beat someone up. Oh, he beat the shit out of someone. Like, that's cool. You know, they're celebrated for their rage, for their aggression, for their anger. And I'm told, oh, like, be quiet, Felice. Don't talk so loud. Men are speaking.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I'm
it's
pissed.
And we have every reason to be pissed. Like, we should be getting more angry. And that's what and the Republicans especially are counting on us not staying angry. They've been saying this since 2022 when Roe was overturned. I remember, I think it was Mike McConnell who was talking about, like, oh, this will pass. Like, this energy will pass. And no, it hasn't. Because we need to be angry, and we need to stay angry, and we need to allow that anger to fuel us to make change. Because I don't know about y'all, but the last few weeks have been hard for me to kind of come out of my, like, whatever of being like, I have to, like, I haven't been making content. I've just been kind of in my head, and I'm like, okay, how do I move forward? And so it's a matter of like, all right, I've let that, I've grieved. Now let's let that anger fuel, because you know what, the work is far from done. If anything, there's more now. So, but you know, we have to be angry. And the minute people stop being angry is when they get complacent and things nothing gets done.
And it's righteous anger. It's anger that comes from injustice. So that is righteous anger. And someone in the comments had said, like, Latina women, and the idea that Latina women have to be quiet, otherwise it's disrespectful. Someone else said something about like the spicy Latina. It's the same idea of the angry black woman, right? And there's this, if anyone is interested, there's this concept of Marianismo that comes from the Latin community. And it's the tenets of what a good woman is. And one of the tenets of Marianismo is the self-silencing woman. Well, we see that across other cultures as well, right? We see that in white culture. We see that in black culture, the idea that women should be self-silencing. We have studied in psychology this idea of the self-silencing person, most often seen in women. It makes you sick. It literally is making women sick. They've done study upon study upon study on this. And the demographic most likely to self-silence by far and away is women, because we know men don't self-silence to save their own freaking lives. But women will self-silence. And what do they find? Why are women self-silencing? In order to maintain peace in a primary relationship. Whose peace? Whose peace are you maintaining? Because it's not yours. And it shows clearly in health psychology studies. You aren't maintaining your own peace. You're self-silencing your own expression to keep their peace. And then it makes women sick. It gives women things like fibromyalgia, Crohn's disease, arthritis. Like, It is literally
Autoimmune
making you sick.
disorders. I am
Yeah.
literally dying because I'm screaming. Yeah, that's why I started screaming. Like, try screaming. I swear it will help you a lot. Walk 10 miles
Right.
a day. That's the other thing I do. I just literally walk 10 miles a day. But it's so true. I was sick for so long because I was literally screaming to be heard. Hold on. I think my Chrissy wants to make an announcement for the show. Hey, Chrissy.
Hey, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I
No,
just
it's
wanted to
fine.
ask everyone in the chat, please, please, please gift Danielle, Mandy, and Felice. They work so hard to get all of this information out to all of us. We really need to show them our appreciation and make sure that we are tapping that screen and sharing. There's 173 people in here and only 81 shares. And I know that I've shared it about 20 times. So please, please, please gift the panel, gift Felice, and like the live. Thank you, Danielle, Mandy, and Felice for all being here for us. And that's all I had to say.
Thank you.
Thanks
Well,
so
and
much, Chrissy. Love you. Appreciate you. I was going to say, if
Thanks,
you guys don't have
Chrissy.
if I
someone to
could,
share the live with, you can push the
you
copy
can
link
copy
button
link.
as well. Yeah, it counts as a share as well. So we do
And if I
appreciate you
could,
sharing the live.
just before we move on from what we were just talking about, I was that woman who self-silenced for most of my marriage. And when I stopped is when that went south, because I was taught we didn't talk about politics. We didn't, don't raise your voice. Like, I would get kicked under the table sometimes. And to his credit, he did therapy. He has changed a lot, but the damage of 17 years of that was done. So, but like, for me, it was a matter of I didn't speak out on any of it. I voted Democrat my whole life. I participated in trying to help, donating money and time and things. But when I got home, I wasn't allowed to talk about it because he voted Trump twice. And for me, it was a matter of status quo. It was a matter of I have 3 kids. I live in this isolated little tiny town in the middle of fucking nowhere where the only people around are his family. His family was very racist and said a lot of things. And it took until my kids started to listen to what was being said around them that I started finding my voice and was like, I'm sorry, we don't use the D word for a lesbian in front of my children ever. Like, don't talk like that in front of my kids or we'll leave. And it started drama slowly, but then I think you both have heard the story of my dad passing. How he had never voted and he voted in 2020 because of me, and then had a stroke the day after the election due to COVID. And I lost him the day they called it for Biden. And it was in that moment in the hospital, in PPE, in telling one of the nurses or somebody the story of my dad. And I said, the last gift he gave me was his voice. And I've only gotten louder since. And I haven't shut up since because I realized in that very moment that I was doing no one a service by being silent and being quiet. And now there are women who come to me every day looking for that motivation, or they're like, hey, I can't speak out, but because of you, I'm donating, or because of you, I voted, or because of you, I'm helping. I was able to get the things I'm going to need for my daughter, if she needs anything, and I could never be quiet again. But it's hard if you're like me and you're raised in a way that's like you grow up. I got my college degree. I got married. I was a mom. When you were a kid, when you had kids, you were a mom. That's what you were, and that was all I had as an identity. And then I had my twins. I guess I'm getting all over the place really quick. Had my twins, got really sick, had that moment of like, oh, I might not live forever. And then my dad's voting really was the thing that pushed me sort of over the edge. But all that to say, if you're quiet right now, if you're protecting yourself right now, if that is what is safest for you in your home right now, that's fine, but find ways to be defiant. Find ways to do it. Find ways to speak out. Find ways to reach out. Reach out to someone like any of us. Let us know your story. Let us help you. Like, let us tell your story if it's a story you feel needs to be told. If you need resources, most of us have a ton of them in our links, like, it is really easy for people to say, oh, just speak up, but I've been there. And I wouldn't want it to take a stroke of somebody's loved one for someone else to have that, to speak up. But I understand sometimes that's what it takes. So That was a long story. Sorry it was so
No,
long,
that was
but
amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I think many women are in like having that experience. Danny talks all the time about like the statistics and women staying in relationships, because it's expected or because of monetary reasons, right? Like most of the relationships I've been in with men, like for some reason I felt like I had to be, like I couldn't get out, mainly for monetary reasons. So yeah, I mean, you do what's expected of you. Many women do. I feel like my sister is one of them in a way. So I
well,
totally
then
understand.
if we start to make our own money and we start to be self-sufficient, suddenly then we're hated for that because then it's,
Exactly. And then they hate
then
you
it's a
for
whole nother
another
thing.
reason.
Now, oh, you don't need a man. You have all that money. Well, then don't take their money if you get divorced, or don't take their money. I was like, dude, first of all, how many, this idea that men are walking around with all this money, boy, please. But also just like there is no winning for women. Literally, it's impossible to be a woman.
Well, amen. I could not agree with that statement more. It's like that's my experience for Hispanic women as well. Like I have hair almost down to my waist. I have no tattoos. I do not have my ears pierced. And you ask why? Because if I did, I'd have the shit beaten out of me. Like, I don't think people understand Hispanic culture. Like, people were surprised Hispanic people didn't vote for Kamala Harris. I was not. Like, there is a huge undercurrent of misogyny in Hispanic culture. It's called machismo, but it is
Mhm.
misogyny. Like, I mean, that is the reality that people live in. So, yeah, I completely understand. There is no way to win. Either you're complacent and, like Danny says, it's silently killing, it's slowly killing you as you remain silent, or you find your voice and you start fighting and you are demonized for that every day. Like, I mean, the messages I receive on the internet, like, that's a whole other set of ways to lose is being stalked and harassed online every day. Like, I'm punished
Yeah.
for this. I was punished for my silence. There is no way to win.
And God forbid you be outspoken and pretty.
God, this.
Right.
Because then it's even worse. Because, and I don't mean that to say that everyone is pretty in their own right. I'm a very, like, I think people are beautiful no matter what. But if you are conventionally, societally
Attractive.
considered attractive, and then you actually have a voice, you are that much more of a target by these people because they can't handle that, because you might actually be someone they listen to, that someone listens to. You know what I mean? Like they know when people have that charisma and they don't like it.
Oh, I
And it
could
is a
not.
game
Oh
for
yeah.
sure. Like I always talk about patriarchy as like it's a game, but only one side has goalposts. And women are just supposed to constantly hustle for their worth.
Only one
Like
guy,
men
only
are
one
born
side
with
can
it.
score. Just
Only one side can score. Your goalpost just keeps moving down and down and down and further. Only one side has goalposts. Like it truly is like that. And men are born with their worth, right? The way that we talk about men in our society is that men are worthy as like just because they were born. Women are supposed to hustle for their worth their entire life. And that's that goalpost that it's just going to keep moving because you're supposed to hustle for your worth and your worthiness your whole life.
Can I
Yeah.
just describe it like women when they start tearing you down because you're speaking up, just look at them and smile and just say, I smell your insecurity. Like I smell it coming off of you in waves. And
Yeah.
that's how I see men now. Cause like I've said this, like I'm neurodivergent. I see the world in patterns. Like all I see it like I don't see people, I just see a pattern of behavior. That's how I see people. So it's very easy. I never listen to what people are saying. I just am watching this pattern like develop. And it's like, hey, you're insecure. You're hurting women because you're insecure. Why are you doing that? And that actually enrages men more. I don't necessarily
Yeah.
advise to call them insecure over and over, but that's the truth. Hey, you want to hit me because you're insecure? You're trying to push me down because you're insecure? Why are you so insecure? Why don't you take a look at yourself, right?
Yeah. No, you're right.
Introspection, that's not their thing.
Exactly. Like, I think you said this last week, Dani. It's like you have a turning point, like in the patriarchy. You can be introspective and do work on yourself and recognize, like, oh, I am part of this problem, right? Or women, same thing with women. Say, I am part of this problem. I had to face that in my 20s, like when reflecting, once I got in therapy for 6 years and realized, like, hey, the trauma I suffered actually made me have a lot of internalized misogyny. It made me have less empathy for people. Like, I moved through the world like, hey, no one cares about me. Why do I have to care about anyone else? Like,
Right.
yeah. And I had to unpack all that and take responsibility for it and think, what am I going to do now like, to make up for all of it? Men
Right.
don't do that.
No.
I
Well,
just
and
want,
that's got to start as children. Like, we're not, like, that's the thing when I talk about my kids a lot, it's how I'm raising them so that hopefully they are aware of that. Like, my son was talking about something and literally was like, yeah, because of the patriarchy. And I was so proud. I was like, good. I'm glad that that's in your vocabulary. But also, like, that's the problem, right? Like, if we aren't teaching these boys how to have that emotional regulation when they are kids, how to be introspective, how to accept, responsibility for their actions. If we continue to coddle them and say, "Oh, boys will be boys," or "Oh, girls mature sooner," which is just code for we force girls to mature. If we would actually, we need to raise these young men to not want to be the next Andrew Tates of the world. Like, and that takes being involved, and that takes wanting to be a parent, which takes us back to what we talk about a lot, right? How many people are going to be forced to be parents who won't be good at it and certainly shouldn't be? Um,
amen.
because,
God, and it's so
yeah,
important. That's why we're doing this too. The best thing about women is we have access to younger generations of men, right? As a mother, me, like I was a teacher, and it's like you have these moments in time. Because I, as a child who was not being, I'd say, I don't know what the right word is, nurtured by my parents, right? There was just a ton of neglect. So there were these teachers in my life or coaches. Like I was a Division 1 athlete. Sports saved my life. And coaches were the people that's like, hey, this is how you live life. This is how you organize yourself. This is how you treat people, right? So I encourage all women to know, like, you can make a difference in young men's life. I was raised, someone, I think it was Kirk in the comments said, what does it mean if I relate to this a lot? I think it makes you somebody in touch with empathy and who had a similar experience. Like, I actually relate to men. I was raised without empathy. If I cried, I was beaten. Like, there was no emotional regulation. Like, I mean, so I actually relate to men a lot. And I understand, like, men want to be vulnerable, men want somebody to listen. And I think that's how women end up being this, like, emotional support system for men. And it takes a lot of our energy and our free time and our labor because they've never received that in a lot of ways. It's not acceptable to be vulnerable with men. So I think, yeah, I see both sides of it. And I think women have this unique opportunity, right? That's why Fax and I always talk about we need to target women as the Democratic Party, right? We obviously have this opportunity. Women are losing their bodily autonomy, losing their rights in real time. We can see the conservative policies affecting women negatively, the maternal mortality rates rising, all these things are happening. And women, we can reach them now. Like if not before, now more than ever. And like I know Wisconsin's a great example of that, Mandy. Like there's so many white women in Wisconsin, and the Democratic Party has a great ground game there. They
yeah.
work year round. What's his name? Like Ben
Ben,
Wickler?
yep, Ben Wickler, yep. And we were the only, I believe we were the only swing state where white women actually outvoted for Kamala, which, I mean, as somebody who's on the ground here in Wisconsin, I was really proud of that because I've seen that momentum in Wisconsin. I've seen people connecting in Wisconsin, and I'm really excited that our ground game has been so strong. In fact, Ben is, I think, up now. He just announced his run for head of the Democratic Committee, I believe, yesterday. I
Yeah,
think
I
he
think so.
announced his run. Like, it's incredible. He's incredible. I've met him a few times. He actually was the one who called me back in May when I was on a little trip out west. I drove from Wisconsin out to California that time. That was really cool.
Amazing.
Um,
Someone in the comments knows him.
and
Yeah, he's a great I'm very
he's the
impressed
one
by
who
him and
called me
how
to ask me to run, and I was like, how does Ben have my phone number?
That's amazing.
Like
He
that's
did?
so cool.
That's so
Yeah,
cool. And if
he
you guys
wanted
don't
me to
know,
run
he's
this
the head
year.
of the Democratic Party in Wisconsin. He's very progressive, very forward thinking. And like, yeah, Wisconsin is the blueprint. White women turned out in Wisconsin for the Democratic Party. And so that's what I mean, and hopefully that you guys can maintain the, progressive
and we
lean
really
on the
need to.
Supreme
The
Court.
biggest one is that Supreme Court race. So, like, I was really involved in getting Janet Protasiewicz elected back in 2023. And I'm hoping to play a key role in however I can use my platform to get people out to vote again, because her opponent is a terrifying person. Like, he's a really bad dude and has no business being on our Supreme Court. And we just got our left leaning, like our progressive leaning court. And we can't give it up now.
I know.
You know.
We only have till the midterms too. So
it was Wisconsin that if our Wisconsin Supreme Court, it was one judge who refused to give it to Trump back in 2020 on our Supreme Court. If that one judge had gone conservative like they had historically gone, Trump would have been the president in 2020 because we would have given them Wisconsin. And so
close.
That speaks volumes to how important our lean on this is. And the guy who's running against her believes that there should be no exceptions for abortion, believes, he's a terrible person. So yeah, Wisconsin, and that's in April of 2025. So that's coming up. That's in like 3 months.
Let us know how we can help mobilize or what messaging needs to go out. Because, we need to stay. I mean, the courts, I'm very interested in the courts and what goes on. Like, my brother's a corporate lawyer. I'm not involved in law, but God, I could be. Like, for all the court documents I read and everything, it's the last place the truth matters. Like, this is where a lot of these battles for women's freedom is going to play out. So, yeah. It's scary to even think of. Like today, another thing going on today, actually, as long as we're speaking of Supreme Court, it's like SCOTUS, or, the conservative SCOTUS in DC, they're hearing the case of trans children. I think her name's LW. She's from Tennessee. She was originally getting gender affirming care at Vanderbilt. And, I think is it SB1 or it's some state bill that Tennessee passed that prevented transgender children from receiving their gender affirming care. Vanderbilt shut down their program, and now she's traveling like it was 5 hours, but Hurricane Helene knocked out a bridge or something. So now she's traveling 10 hours to get her care. And they are hearing that case. The oral arguments are happening today. And I mean, this could mean a lot for Tennessee. It could mean things nationwide. Preligar, our Biden Solicitor General, is arguing for her.
I think it'll be really interesting how moving forward with this next administration, and I do gender affirming care. I think a lot of people in the chat have heard me talk about that. People are absolutely terrified, y'all, because there's a lot of other stuff going on in the background, right? And every little win that we can get for trans healthcare is a win. Every little win we can get for LGBTQ rights is a win. And I'm a queer person. This stuff affects me as well, living in Florida. We have a bill that they're trying to, gosh, Felice, how do I say this? PDF files. They have a bill where they're trying to make it so you can get the death penalty if you get convicted of being a PDF file. But also they're trying to redefine that as queer people just existing in public, trans people just existing in public, anybody that is assigned female at birth but doesn't appear femme presenting enough for them. That counts, right? So you could be convicted of this stuff and potentially face the death penalty just because you're a queer person existing in public. Like, this is how this stuff ends up, the dominoes and the shit rolls downhill. So every little tiny bit of a win that we can get is a big win. And the case out of Tennessee is for any type of gender affirming care, including things like puberty blockers. Mandy and I have discussed at length before, there are many, many teenagers, and Mandy, I think I can say this because you said it on the show before.
Nope, yep, it's public.
Mandy's kiddo has had to use puberty blockers. So it's something that we use in healthcare. And if we're it's just like the abortion bans. If this stuff gets blocked, it also gets blocked for other people using it for other reasons. Gender affirming care is a wide, wide umbrella. And also, just shut up about it. No one gives a shit about 16-year-olds getting breast implants, right? So like, until I see men in front of the Capitol protesting 16-year-olds getting nose jobs and breast implants, shut up. Because that's gender affirming care and no one gave a shit. And this isn't even talking about surgeries, y'all. This is purely talking about hormones and puberty blockers. It is not talking about surgeries, which by and large is not happening on adolescent populations. By and large, not happening. So like, it's bigger than this, right? It's just like the abortion thing where it's bigger than just this. And if you think it's not going to affect you, just wait, because it will.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so a couple things. I forgot who it was in the comments. Someone rightfully mentioned today, the first transgender lawyer is arguing before the Supreme Court, which I think is which is pretty amazing. Prelegar for the people, like it's super cool. And I think it's amazing to mention. And this article, this is a Washington Post article. I recommend you can read it or listen to it. Everyone should listen to this article, hear LW's story, like it is about her journey, you know, and I guarantee it doesn't involve what Donald Trump says, people going to school and then, you know, getting surgery at school. Like she's never had surgery. She went to counseling for years. Like she saw doctors for years, you know, for over a year before she was allowed to, you know, be on estrogen. Like, I mean, you can see that this is a huge process. And it also talks about how she was suicidal, how she wore baggy clothes, could not hug her family, would not speak to neighbors, would not participate in school, was basically about to unalive herself. And it's about like the transformation and her finding herself in the world and feeling accepted. And I'd just like to say, you know, because I have to keep an eye on the red pill men, you know, sometimes I don't even want to admit this, but I do listen to Joe Rogan. And you know what I listen to Joe Rogan talk about every day ad nauseum? Gender affirming care that he receives. He is on testosterone, the same testosterone that trans men receive every single day. Joe Rogan talks about how all men should also be on testosterone gel or injections, and how great it is for him, how great gender affirming care is for the red pill bros. They're all on testosterone, but not the trans community. Men who don't feel like men and are embarrassed they're getting older, they can have testosterone. But nope, no one else can.
Yeah. And it's so enraging, like as a clinician who works almost exclusively in AFAB healthcare, we can't even get AFAB people to get hormones that they need because they're going through perimenopause. Remember, we have thousands upon thousands of studies on erectile dysfunction in the last decade. We have less than 400 on menstruation and menopause. Thousands of studies on erectile dysfunction, less than 400 on menopause, perimenopause, and menstruation. So we know this much about perimenopause and menstruation. And we recently discovered in the past probably 5 to 8 years that perimenopause actually lasts longer than we thought it did. We used to tell people it starts in like your mid to early 40s. We're actually finding out that it kind of begins in like the late 30s for some people. So people might need gender affirming care, might need hormone therapy to get pregnant, to maintain like their health, to maintain comfortability. We cannot get women these hormones. Like the amount of hoops and doctor's appointments you have to jump through as an AFAB person and cost to access perimenopause hormone care is insane. Meanwhile, and when I tell you I see this every single day, I've heard patients going to OBGYNs and saying, well, yeah, I'm still menstruating, but I'm having all these horrible menopause, perimenopause symptoms. Oh, we don't give hormones for you if you're still menstruating. That is patently untrue. Britain has been giving hormones to people for the past 12 years when they're still menstruating. We're just really far behind. Meanwhile, men can walk into a host of testosterone clinics that are just all over the place. You can walk into a med spa and get it. And all men have to do is walk in there and say, you know, I'm just a little more tired lately.
I don't
my
feel like a
energy
man.
level. I just don't feel
I
like a
want
man
leaner
anymore.
muscle. I feel fat. Like my hair is thinning.
I'm gaining fat, and it's harder for me to lose weight in the gym than it was before. They hand out testosterone gel like it's from a Pez dispenser. But AFAB people cannot get care for menopause and perimenopause. This is going to affect you. It's going to be harder to get care now. So like, it affects all of us.
Could you speak to, and because this is how I see it happening, they start with hormone blockers, which we've talked about. My daughter had precocious puberty. She went on them for a number of years. They saved her. But they start with hormone blockers, but that's a hormone. So that can be the catalyst for hormonal birth control. That can be the catalyst for hormone replacement therapy, taking these medications away or making them even harder for us to get. Because it just starts with convincing them that one hormone treatment is bad. And the next thing you know, well, so is that hormone. And you hear them on the right talking about the dangers of hormonal birth control already, because they're gearing up for that. But I mean, is that like a pathway you're seeing as well? Because that's what I always think of when I see them coming for hormone blockers and the lives it's going to cost because trans kids are so vulnerable. But just that is the path I see as somebody who's on hormone replacement therapy. So I had to have a hysterectomy. So I'm on estrogen, I'm on progesterone, and I think I'm on 2 different types of progesterone or something. I would have to look it up, but I'm on 3 different meds right now, and I can add testosterone. But you know what I pay? $200 a month.
Which is still a lot, y'all.
It's a lot. $200 a month for my medication.
That's a lot.
For just that medication, plus any labs and anything else. Those are all the fees I have to incur. Because going through my insurance wasn't working, and I got fed up, and I went with it. I went through an organization that actually prioritized women and was able to get me in and get me the labs and get me the medication because I wasn't getting it through my normal course. Like, I was like, something's wrong. I don't want to feel like this anymore. But yeah, and that's the reality is, I mean, and Danielle, you'll speak to that better than me as a clinician, but like, that is the path I see. They come for one hormone treatment, then they're coming for the next.
Yeah, they're all steroids, right? They're all steroids. And so if they come, just like Mandy said, these are the same hormones. They're the same hormones. So they might be given to you, they might be administered in a different way, right? And at different doses and different concentrations, depending on what the issue is. But they are the same thing. And one of the treatments for people early in perimenopause is doctors will often try to put them on birth control pills, because it's kind of a low dose, low level. It's a way to see, like, we're trying to give you the least restricted care, right? And the least care with the most benefit. And that's one of the ways to give the least care with the most benefit is to start you on birth control pills. They're relatively cheap. They're readily available. You can usually access them really easily, right? So we're definitely going to see more and more stuff taken off the market. And they're already trying to take some stuff off the market, right? They're going to go after the morning after pill. They're definitely going to go after the abortion pill. We're going to see more. And Mandy, you and I had talked about, and Felice, I think we talked about on the show, the 3 of us a couple weeks ago, about how they're slowly going to come for birth control because they're going to reclaim it all as abortifacients. Right? It's not going to be birth control anymore. Anything that stops a fertilized egg from implanting is going to be deemed an abortifacient. It's not going to be deemed birth control. Well, hormones do that. Hormones are what stops something from implanting. It thins the lining of your uterus, right? So all of that stuff is going to be affected. And just to give you a contrast, because Mandy, you were saying I pay $200 a month. I was just working, I work in the UK a lot, and I have a lot of connections in London. So this was something that was published earlier this year. The UK, or England specifically, they had a program that was, their purpose was for women to be able to access cheaper HRT due to their negative menopause symptoms. and an additional 500,000 women have been able to benefit from low cost to no cost menopause care, saving them 11 million euro, because the UK put out a program that gave them essentially like a certificate to access this, right? So you get your certificate, you pay the one-time fee to the NHS, the health system, and then you have your certificate for hormone therapy for the rest of the year. So you pay one time, and it's like super cheap. It's like, I can't remember how much it is, and I'm not going to make it up because I'm going to get it wrong. But 20 euro, under 20 euro for a year's supply. So while Mandy's sitting here paying $200 a month, in the UK, they have a program for this where women can access HRT due to menopause for 20 euro for the entire year. And it doesn't matter how much you get. It doesn't matter if you change medications. You're allowed to change medications as many times as you want. You don't have to pay anymore. That's the difference between our healthcare system and the UK, who actually kind of gives a shit about women's health.
I used to wander around South America, and I went to a hospital once and I was like, I don't think I can afford this. And they're like, what are you talking about? They're like,
Yeah.
they're like, no, you don't have to pay. And I'm like, what? What?
Yeah.
No, it's sickening. Like third world countries, you can get prescriptions you need for nothing. I think I paid $5 in like Colombia for a prescription I needed. Like, and I was like, oh, this is like hundreds of dollars in the US. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I got hurt.
Thailand
I got
has
hurt when I was.
Go ahead, Mandy.
No, I say I got hurt a little bit when I was in Ireland a couple of years ago, and I went to like just the chemist, and they made like such a deal. They were ready. They're like, maybe you need to be seen. Let's get you back in the consultation room. We'll get someone back there who's qualified to clean this up and take a look at it. And it was this whole thing. And I was like, well, what do I owe you? Because they cleaned it up. They gave me series strips. They were like, I think you're all right. I don't think you need to go to the hospital, but here's all this stuff. And and to me, that was the closest I was ever going to get to experiencing like universal healthcare. Because here, and if I walked into a pharmacy anywhere here and was like, I'm bleeding down the side of my leg, they'd be like, Band-Aids are in that aisle, and don't drip on the floor. So that was the closest I had to that experience. But I will never forget my friend being like, it's not going to cost you anything, just go if you need to. And I remember just being terrified. I was like, no, I don't. And they're like, honey, we have universal health care. You can go get stitches, it'll be okay.
Yeah, it's crazy.
People think we're nuts in other countries. What I'm like, I can't afford this. Like, how much is this cost?
Right.
What are you talking about? Like, yeah, it's crazy.
And when you really think about healthcare, like for me and Dani, I just can't get my brain around. The more you think about it, like it is such a human right to be able to be healthy. But I said the other day, I'm like, our government wants us sick. And there was something that I read where I was like, they absolutely want us sick. Because they want to take the fluoride out of the water. I was like, yep, that they want it. Like RFK Jr. wants fluoride out of the water. I'm like, yep, see, more proof. They want us sick. They want us hurt. They want us going to the dentist, which we can't afford. There'll never be a cure to cancer because there's too much money in treatment. Like, I'm like, this is a government that doesn't care about our health.
Not at all.
Which is ironic in capitalism, because we are the slave labor workforce, right? If you want us to be, I mean, I say this all the time, the point in capitalism is choose a corporation in America, you choose a company and you sell your body for them. You sell your life force back to them for the right to go to the doctor. Like that's how they want it. Oh, you're not working? Well, you're not going to the doctor. You're not working? Your children can't get health care, right? I mean, that is literally the situation in America, is sell your body to a corporation if you want health care. But it makes no sense, because it'd be smarter in capitalism to keep your workforce healthy.
And it's one of the reasons that we have, like, people ask me this all the time, why is our maternal mortality so high? Why does the US have a maternal mortality rate, the rate of people dying due to pregnancy, that is 2 to 3 times higher than any other nation? One of the major reasons is because we don't have universal health care. So people aren't getting the prenatal care they need. People aren't getting the preventative care they need before they get pregnant. Many people haven't been to the doctor for years before they get pregnant. They haven't had a checkup. They haven't like checked how their systems are, how their heart is, their lungs, their liver, their kidneys, right? So like people aren't having preventative care. But then also when they do get pregnant, people don't have access to early and often prenatal care. And then now we have this huge OBGYN shortage all over the place. So now people really can't access care. Like they're having to wait weeks and weeks for care. In the area that I live in Florida, I don't know a single OBGYN that is taking a new patient that isn't pregnant. The only new patients that they're taking are pregnant patients. They're not taking patients for preventative care, pap smears, other things like that, because they can't. They just have too many. I literally can't get patients in to see someone for preventative care because nobody else is seeing them. So this is a huge issue. And one of the main reasons that we have a maternal death rate that is so high is because we don't have any kind of a healthcare system here.
Amen. And then we were talking about this as well, which I was going to say, I need to look up the name of the article because it's slipping my mind. But there's a huge article that just came out on that now, just like we saw the mass exodus from Idaho, there's a mass exodus of OBGYNs from Texas. And I'll tell you, shocker, specifically in the poorest parts where they were, setting up these residency programs, these amazing doctors were setting up residency programs for other doctors to get the rounds they needed in AB care in order, and things of that nature. And there's a mass exodus, and brown and black women are going to be disproportionately affected again, and they are going to be unalived, right, at a higher rate, which, we saw in June 2024 articles coming out saying that Texas's maternal mortality rate had skyrocketed. And then on November 26th, last week, we see this. Ooh, puzzle piece. Yay, got it. The live won't shut down. I'm getting better.
And I need everyone to know that, like, this is insane. This is insane. The fact that this is unprecedented. The fact that they have, so first of all, the reason that they gave is BS. It's total crap. So the reason that they gave was, we're not going to review cases from 2022 or 2023. Of course, that's right when Roe was overturned, right? If they don't, basically what they're saying is, if you don't look at it, it didn't happen. If we don't give you the data, then we can just pretend it didn't happen. The reason that they said they're not doing it is because they said we have a backlog. We have a backlog of cases. And so we're just going to skip 2022, 2023 and come forward. That's normal. That is normal. There's a reason that we don't have updated maternal death stats. We don't have the updated numbers, right, until the following year, because it's very normal. These are called maternal mortality review committees, or MMRCs. Every single state has one. They're tasked with reviewing pregnancy-related deaths. And you'll see a lot of misinformation out there that's saying like, oh, these are counting deaths from like a car accident. No, they don't. That's the point of this maternal mortality review committee, because there's a checkbox that was instituted in 2003 federally. And that checkbox asks if the patient was pregnant or recently pregnant. There's different options that they can pick. They can pick like currently pregnant, pregnant within the last 42 days, pregnant within the last year. And if that checkbox is checked, those cases get reviewed by the MMRCs. If they died because of a car accident or like an accident, just an accident, those cases get thrown out. That's why the MMRCs exist, because they throw out the cases that don't count. And then the cases that do count, they make a ruling. Was this preventable? Was this death preventable? And then with that data, we're supposed to, we don't, but we're supposed to move forward and make recommendations for how the state can lower maternal mortality. But those recommendations are always things like expanding Medicaid, and red states don't ever want to do that. So their rates never go down, right? But knowing that that's what the committee does, and knowing how many cases they have to review, these MMRCs are regularly 18 to 24 months behind on reviewing cases. That's why we didn't get 2023 maternal death statistics until like near the end of 2024. Also because Texas was withholding data from us. Anyway, now Texas is saying we can't review these cases because we're backlogged. Everybody's backlogged. That's the norm. The norm is to be 18 to 24 months behind on reviewing these cases, depending on how many you have and how big your state is. California and Texas and Florida take longer than like Rhode Island, right? Because they're bigger states. The reasoning is bullshit. The reason they're not reviewing these cases is because they don't want you to know. Because Texas has had 3 women die as a result of their abortion ban. Yenny Alvarez is often left out because she died in 2021. So she died before the 2022 overturn, but as a direct result of SB 8. So she's often discounted. So they don't want you to know that. So you will literally never know about these cases. They're just going to throw them out.
Yeah, it's absolutely unbelievable. And that's exactly right. Like I was reading, they try to say, I think they interviewed, it was like 2 or 3 people who did speak on the record and who are on the Texas Maternal Mortality Review Committee. And they're like, oh, I don't think there's anything weird about this. Really, you don't think there's anything weird about the most aggressive abortion ban in the country going into place? And then a bunch of not-for-profit journalism outlets reporting on unalivings of women as a direct result, and not them determining, them having doctors review these cases. Georgia's maternal mortality, in the case of Candy or Amber Thurman and Candy, I can't remember her last name all of a sudden. Candy Miller. Like these were reviewed and determined that they were preventable. These are all coming out right before the election. It is horrible for optics. We saw Georgia just say, you're all fired. We can't prove which one of you released this data to the public. So you are all fired. These are doctors. These are community members on the Maternal Mortality Review Committee in Georgia, gone. They fired every single one of them like 2 weeks ago. And in Texas, their response is, oh, yeah, we know we've had too many. Some of these have leaked out. So our response is, we're going to hide the data from you and we're going to lie about it. And we are going to say, oh, we're backlogged. Just like Dani says, they're always backlogged 2 years.
It's normal.
And they're also
normal.
instilling anti-abortion people on these committees. So like,
right.
That's the other thing is that if they have a committee
or whatever,
they're going to install these people that aren't going to have any best interest at heart. Their only interest is to spread more misinformation regarding abortion. Like that's their whole goal is to hide it.
And we also look like nationally too about, because y'all were talking about like these preventable deaths, right? Nationally, when we review this data, what we do know, and it depends on the state, right? Every state's different. Red states tend to do the worst, big surprise. We know that over 80% of maternal deaths that happen in the United States, over 80% are preventable. Over 80%. Now, with these abortion bans coming into play, that number is going to increase, right? So what they're afraid of is not only the maternal mortality jumping up, which it has, and it will, but they're also worried about that number jumping up as well. Because currently we have somewhere, we'll just say 80% of deaths are preventable. Well, now that's going to jump up to like 87% of deaths are preventable, because all of these are preventable with a DNC. Almost every single one of these women who died could have been saved really easily with a 10 to 20 minute procedure.
They don't review women who are seeking ABs, just to be clear. Like if you die while seeking an AB, that's not what we're talking about. These are unalivings of women that were preventable because they just needed a DNC, right? They were going into sepsis because there's necrotic tissue left in their uterus. They're miscarrying and they just didn't help them fast enough. We're not even talking about women seeking ABs who that's not even what we're talking about. We're just talking about women who were miscarrying and they didn't help.
And the line of like, people get so upset about with the doctors and stuff. There's no way to tell where that line is, where you're sick enough for them to act and not be prosecuted versus not sick enough. And things can change so quickly when we're talking about sepsis and hemorrhaging. So quickly. And I can't remember off the top of my head who it was. I think it was Portia, the most recent case that came out. She lost 5 liters of blood. But y'all, I need you to think about and understand how that is an insane. And then they gave her fluids, like in the report. I can't remember how many bags of fluids it said that I think maybe that they pushed 5 liters of fluid into her or something like that as well. That's an insane amount of fluids. That's insane. Like for people who don't work in medicine and stuff like that, and it's like, that means nothing to you. That's an insane amount of fluid to push into somebody. And they did it because she was losing blood so quickly. Like those 2-liter bottles of soda, 2.5 of those. That's a lot. That's a lot. So like, we are not doing evidence-based medicine in these cases, but it's because the laws are not allowing for evidence-based practice.
Yeah, and it's so sad. I don't even know what to say about it anymore. It is so sad. I just took some screenshots of this, but I mean, yeah, I think you literally covered all. I love your
Yeah.
memory. Your memory is so good. But I mean, it's so disturbing what is going on in Texas. And I think this will be the roadmap, right? Like how many people or how many, excuse me, not people, how many women are going to be unalived? And then it's going to be on non-governmental organizations. And like, Dani, I guess I'm interested on your perspective on this because that's what it is. Like, and I see it's a larger picture as well. It's almost like the Republican Party is now like, catch me if you can, right? Like, we're not going to help you catch us in the horrible things we're doing. We're going to hide data from you. We're going to hide as much information as from you. We're in control with these state supermajorities, and you're going to have to, through journalism, through non-governmental organizations, through through Freedom of Information Act requests, catch us if you can.
Yeah, I think that it's one of those things where, again, this is unprecedented for Texas to be like, we're just going to throw out these cases and not do it. I mean, what are the consequences? Nothing. There's really no consequences. There's really no structure set up in place for there to be consequences. The consequences are more people are going to die and we're not going to hear about it unless ProPublica continues to do, and I hope they do, their investigative reporting, right? But like...
Well, and wouldn't you say, and this is just me extrapolating, but like, it's also sending a really interesting message to doctors because on one hand, we're constantly hearing, oh, it's the doctor's fault. They should have acted. But now they're saying, but we're going to throw out all these findings. So we're not actually going to hold any doctors accountable to possibly being neglected in some way. Or honestly, I never blame the doctors in these situations because it's the laws and you have lawyers between the doctors and their patients. But you're sending such a strange message to doctors like, well, we're just not going to investigate those. So there won't be any investigation in maternal deaths that may need investigation. There might have been a situation unrelated to the law that a doctor acted inappropriately that's now not going to be investigated either. And so you have doctors going, oh, well, at least they're not investigating these things. But so obviously, if we just follow these rules, we won't be. I don't know. There's just this weird, it's creating this very weird dynamic for me that I can't quite get my brain around. Of like,
it's logically inconsistent. That's why you cannot get your brain around it. It is logically inconsistent.
Right.
Like that's what I was gonna say. Like I was just gonna say it was our group chat, so we were all there. But that's what I was talking about when I was asking Dani to speak to articles like this. Like these are written by Catholic, pro-life, doctor. Not, I don't think this guy was a doctor. He's just someone talking some BS. But like their line is this: when they're presented with information, like, well, here I'm talking about this concrete case. Here is a case that was reviewed and was a preventable unaliving of a woman who could not get a DNC. She wanted her baby. She loved her baby. She was trying to carry it to term. She sat there and she died because of sepsis that could have been prevented by a simple DNC. And the response to that is, I don't know why. That's not against the law, a DNC for a woman miscarrying. The doctor should have just performed the DNC. Like, we have no idea why they didn't. That is the response. They gaslight. Like, that's the logical inconsistency that you're talking about. When you go to the pro life groups, like the Ingrid Skop, that is the head. She's like the head doctor at, is it the Susan B. Anthony Foundation, which is like the largest pro life foundation in the United States. And she's now on the Texas Maternal Mortality Review Committee. And that's what they do. They gaslight and they say, well, no, helping women with a miscarriage that's fine.
And so number one, that's silly, right? A DNC is a DNC. It just is. And what they're trying to say, the underlying current here that everyone needs to pay attention is they're trying to say you don't deserve care. They're trying to say there are people worthy of care and people not worthy of care, right? Because they're sitting here going like, oh, well, that's a DNC. Like, of course you can do that, right? Well, they would deem that person worthy of care because they wanted their baby, because they had a miscarriage and the baby couldn't survive. But as we saw in the case of Nevaeh Crane, who was 18 years old, she was a Christian, pro-life, white, beautiful young woman, like
blonde
literally
hair, blue-eyed,
poster child for the Republican Party for sure. 100% pro-life, supported the abortion bans in Texas. It didn't save her. It didn't save her when she needed care. And articles like this, because Felice and I did talk about this article. So this article is basically saying like the maternal mortality numbers haven't risen. They're talking about the checkbox that I talked about earlier. They're saying, well, we instituted a checkbox, and they give you a study. In the article, they say this study found that it's actually the implementation of the checkbox that made maternal mortality numbers appear to rise. First of all, they were always high. So what they're talking about is in 2003, they added a checkbox to death certificates. And the person that fills that out is usually like the coroner, the medical examiner, right? So they're checking a checkbox that says, yes, this person was pregnant or recently pregnant. And then that goes to the Maternal Mortality Review Committee, like I said before. They didn't have that checkbox before 2003. So what they actually found was anywhere between 60 to 87% of maternal deaths were not being captured. We didn't even get the data correct, right? We didn't have good data collection. And because we didn't have good data collection, we got poor data output. If you have poor data input, you're going to get poor data output, right? So they implemented the checkbox because they thought this will capture it better. If we give someone a checkbox, and you know what? It did. It did capture it better. We started capturing more of the real numbers of maternal deaths. We still aren't perfect. We know for a fact there are still some that are not being counted. We know this, but it's better. So then they say those numbers went up. Those numbers were already high. We just now are capturing them. Now we have the data to say, see, we knew something was going on, right? So yeah, the checkbox didn't make the numbers go up. That's not true. The checkbox allowed us to capture the numbers that were already existing. And then what we know is that post Dobbs, post the overturn of Roe v. Wade, we have then seen those numbers increase. And something else that they like to pull out is like, well, the numbers decreased between 2022, 2023. We did see a huge bump in maternal mortality in 2021, 2022. And guess what? That was COVID. That was due to COVID. Large part was due to COVID. So yeah, the numbers went down, but that's because the numbers were inflated due to COVID. Now the numbers are back to what they generally were pre-COVID or slightly higher. So we're still seeing the same numbers or an increase in those numbers, and we still don't have the post-Dobbs data because the MMRCs are 18 to 24 months behind.
God, I love you. No, I know. Someone just said Danielle's brilliant in the comments. I was like, you
Thanks,
think?
guys.
Yeah, she's a doctor. Tends to go that way. No, I know.
The amount of data in this brain is just like overwhelming sometimes.
And because I'm not a doctor and I don't, you're immersed in this. So I do read a ton of studies and and I have read this study and I've read the argument, just saying like about all this. So I do appreciate that explanation because I've been wondering like how in fact do I speak to that? But another logical inconsistency about this that was occurring to me is they're saying, what they're saying is, oh, it's the checkbox, which again, I think you correctly identified it was maternal mortality rates were largely going, or unalivings related to women that were pregnant, recently pregnant, or had been pregnant within a year, whatever the case may have been, were largely going unreported. Like women's health around pregnancy was not being reported, right? They implemented the checkbox, which I've looked into and is done in many well-developed countries with universal health care, who actually care about women and provide them health care for free. And so we're just catching up, trying to figure out what's going on with women. And then the next logical inconsistency is, because if you read those studies that saying, oh, it's the checkbox, that's the explanation, then what they say is, it's maternal mortality surveillance. It's the implementation of the checkbox. That's why it looks like it raised. But what we need is further investigation, which is the Maternal Mortality Review Committee, right? Which is someone to look through those cases and say, oh, this one was a car accident. This one needs to be investigated. But they are not going to review those cases in Texas.
Yeah, and we got the checkbox too, by the way. The World Health Organization kind of came in on that one, right? Like, where did we get the checkbox from? Where did that idea come from? Just like you said, because other countries were doing it. Because we did, like back in early 2000s, right? The US, the National Health Statistics, got together with the World Health Organization. How can we capture this data more accurately? And you look at what other countries are doing right? You look at the countries that have lower maternal mortality and you say, what are they doing correctly? What are they doing that we're not doing? One of the things was the checkbox. Another one of the things was universal health care. But of course, the US was like, well, we can't do that. We'll do a checkbox. We can't do that.
And I just want to present this other idea of like social engineering, right? Like, I mean, my degree is in history, and like this is something that America is best at. I was talking about this with facts, that like Hitler came to America because he was so interested in how America socially engineered groups out of existence, right? Like we did with indigenous people. And that has to do with gentrification of housing. That has to do with things like maternal deserts, making it harder for brown and black women to survive childbirth, things of this nature. There are hundreds of different ways that we socially engineer minority groups, marginalized groups out of existence in this country. And this is just one more, right? Like you hear people say all the time, oh, if you need an AB, just leave the state. Leaving is a privilege. Leaving is something for people with capital, with money, with upward mobility. Moving is a privilege. Oh, you're LGBTQI. Oh, you're trans. Leave the state. That's something for people with money. The trans community, the majority of them grow up homeless. Like, how are they going to leave anywhere? They can't pay for care, right? They're largely dependent on things like Medicaid or whatever. Oh, don't provide any of the services they need through Medicaid. I mean, it's about socially engineering groups out of existence. Of course, white women, they'll find a way to survive. Like, even though they're not. And like, that's the case of Nevaeh Crane. And those are the cases I think that are highlighted by the press. And it's sad because an 18-year-old blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl who was pro-life and Republican and believed everything they told her, that if you're miscarrying, you'll be fine. It's not you. If you want your baby, we're not going to do it to you. It's only those bad liberal women that don't want their babies and are trying to get rid of them. But an 18-year-old blonde-haired, blue-eyed, pro-life Republican in Texas was unalived.
And I think it's also really, really interesting to look at her case specifically, because what a lot of people miss about her case is, okay, let's blame the doctors, right? Oh, it's the doctor's fault. It's medical malpractice. The MMRCs don't look into medical malpractice, right? They look into whether or not it was preventable. But the hospitals and the family can request an investigation if they think that malpractice happened. Her family tried to sue the hospitals and the doctors. Not a single lawyer would take the case. Not a single lawyer would take their case. So if you want to sit here and say, well, that's malpractice, well, it's the doctor's fault, the legalities don't agree with you. Lawyers don't agree with you. The court system isn't going to agree with you. Not a single lawyer would take the case, because at the end of the day, the doctors were following the law.
It's exactly right. And that's what the hospitals say. Like we talked about HCA, the largest hospital chain largely in the South that's there. Oh, Chrissy's coming up. That's largely in the South and they're delivering the most babies. Say if when questioned in Texas about why people might be being unalived, all they'll say is we're following the laws in every state.
Yep.
Hey,
I
Chrissy.
unfortunately have a hard stop at 3, y'all, because I have my afternoon clinic that I have to see patients in.
So we have about 5 minutes. Chrissy, what's up?
Well, thank you, Danielle. I just wanted to say we've got 300 people in here. Please, please, please gift Danielle, gift Mandy, give gifts to Felice. They bring this information to us, this vital information to us that we would, not get anywhere else. This is such a strong place to get information for women, for us all to continue fighting through this together. Like the live, share the live, and thank you all for being here. Thank you so much, Danielle and Mandy and Felice, for having the broadcast for us.
Thank you.
No, we'll be here. Guys, this is every Tuesday. Again, I think, yeah, so it's almost, what time is it? It's almost 3, right? 5 minutes?
Yeah, for me it is, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just sorry. Time is hard. Someone said that.
That's okay. I'm usually on Central and I'm on Eastern because I'm in DC this week. So.
Oh yeah, and I forget. Whenever I think of you in Florida, I'm like, oh, you're on. Yeah, I get confused. I still get confused. The panhandle, super confusing. Okay, yeah. So I was just gonna say, guys, we are also broadcasting on YouTube, pushing this to YouTube on my same channel, A Girl Has No Name, and we're gonna be here every Tuesday. Which is, God, if I get this wrong, just correct me right now. It starts at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern. Is that right? Is that correct? Yep. Yeah, 10 a.m. Pacific,
so.
1 p.m.
Central,
Eastern. So the broadcast, we are pushing it to YouTube and also here. So make sure you invite people, tell people, share the live, because we really want to build up women, but not just women, men as well, coming here and learning. Like we said, I mean, this is not just for women. I mean, this is a community to learn about how conservative policies are harming women, but we welcome men here to be traitors to the patriarchy and to also listen as well. Anything? What do you got? Any final words and thoughts, guys? Oh, grandma. It's 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern every Tuesday. Tuesdays are for the broads. By the way, guys, I started calling us the Broad Squad. So we need to make
I love that.
We need stickers. We need merch.
We
absolutely do.
I'm going to make us avatars on like an AI app and make us like sweatshirts or something called the Broad Squad. I'm going to figure it out. And the best part is a man that voted for Trump came up with it. So like,
Thanks.
I know. I was like, awesome. I'm going to use that. And we're going to make money off of it. Thank you.
Sure.
Anyways, yeah, guys, final thoughts. Promote something.
Mandy, got nothing? Like and follow as always. I think Mandy can probably speak to this too, but like we're always constantly getting silenced because we talk about AB care and we talk about women's issues. So any likes, any follows is always helpful because our content doesn't get pushed out on the FYP often. Yeah. Agree, Mandy?
Absolutely. Yep. No, and I saw some questions regarding Wisconsin, how you can get involved. As I get information on ways to be involved, I will add it to my link tree. We can always add it to the Discord somewhere if we need to for that election in April. But always make sure you're keeping up with your local elections too. Wisconsin probably isn't the only one with one coming up in a few months. So make sure you're checking with your local, because those local races are going to make all the difference.
Local matters.
Yeah, and like I want to say, like just like I see lives that are 3 hours and men get 500,000 likes, I would like to see us aggressively tapping the screen in here and doing the same thing. And exactly because of the subject content of these broadcasts, of the broadcast, like oftentimes it might not be pushed out. So gifting, mentioning TikTok shop, subscribing, all of that stuff, sharing the live, all of those things will help. Thank you so much to mods today. You guys guys were amazing in the chat. Thank you, Chrissy. Thank you, Fee. Thank you, Joanna. Thank you guys, Kimber. Thank you, everyone, for being here and being so supportive. Like, as this is more consistent, it will only grow. Like, I know there's a need for this. So if you know women that you think would be interested in watching the show, please bring them along. Please help us promote the show as well. Again, it is 10 a.m. Pacific time, 1 p.m. Eastern, every single Tuesday. We love you guys so much. And last, thanks, Fax, my favorite traitor to the patriarchy. He said, the bear wins again. That's going to be one busy bear. Thanks for pegging the patriarchy. Oh, wait, I have
Love
two more
it.
to read. Jason said, thank you for being so informative, Felice. And Arden, thank you so much for the donation, Arden. I love you guys. We absolutely appreciate you two, you three. And we will see you guys all next week with more amazing
Bye, guys.
information.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody.